Right, so now we are recording. Here we go, friends. Listening to a little Write It as we come into. We're going to write it right into this Facebook Live. Welcome to DLea DLayered. I'm David Lee with Daring Deeply, where we provide leadership, life, and relationship coaching for high-achieving professional persons, probably like you. Oh, yeah, we're going to dive into a really important topic today that I believe affects everyone that may be watching. So thanks for jumping on here. Hello, Leslie. Good to see you. Thanks for jumping on. Let's listen to a few more. Here we go. It's okay. You can dance. You may be watching this live during your lunch hour, wherever you may be in the States. We're here in the Midwest. It is noon central here in the Midwest. DLea DLayered. Every Tuesday and Thursday, we're here to talk about the complexities of life, leadership, and relationships. And today we're going to talk about divorce. Yep, I know, really uplifting. And maybe it can be. A few more bars of this song. Here we go. You hear that? Here we go. I love it when the beat drops. Here it comes. Oh, yep. All right. I know I can just sit here all day and listen to music, but we got stuff to do. All right. I'm a little fired up today because it's baseball season. Got my Kansas City Royals hat out. Got my baseball. You like the baseball? All right. Alexa, stop. All right. We're going to quiet them down. We're going to quiet her down. We're going to jump into this. Big breath. We're going to talk about divorce today, friends. A topic, a subject, an issue that affects, I would invite us to consider, every single person on this call watching. Hello, David. Good to see you, my friend. Thanks for jumping on. So divorce, a very charged subject, and it's not a surprise, my guess, to those of you that take a look at these videos on a consistent basis. We're going to talk about something that can potentially be a charged subject. Shame associated with the idea of divorce. Many of you, perhaps, that are watching this either live, and again, pause for a second. I invite everyone to jump on live right now. Comment. Let me know you're here. Let me know where you're from. Leave comments, questions, feedback. I'm always interested in providing and receiving. So divorce, there is, I would offer, and certainly my own personal story, which, by the way, I have been married and divorced twice. So I'm always open about that. I was married to my children's mother for about 11 years. And my kids are above me right here, my three amazing souls that they call dad. They call me dad. Anyway. So yeah, I've been divorced. I've been married and divorced twice. I was divorced from my children's mother and then immediately jumped into a relationship. How smart is that? Not necessarily. And got married. And was married for a very short time and divorced. And I've been divorced for about 8 years or so. So I come into this subject today with some experience, certainly personally, and I'm a child of divorce as well. So many of you may be on this call saying, hey, this is me. And those of you that aren't divorced, those of you that are married, those of you that haven't personally experienced, or maybe you're not a child of divorce, you may turn off this and go, oh, this doesn't apply to me. I would invite you to consider and to be curious before critical. My guess is you know someone, you have been touched by divorce. It's much like what we say about cancer, right? Everyone is touched by divorce. And I would invite us to come into this conversation today with an open mind and a curious heart. Because my guess is you're going to hear some things today that you may never have heard before. And for those of you that are struggling in divorce, maybe you're struggling in a marriage and you're wondering if divorce is even an option. You may be still recovering, trying to find some resiliency when it comes to divorce. This today, my friends, may be for you. Hello, Denise. Hello, Susan. Thanks for jumping on. So I have some questions as we often jump into these lives. I have some questions for you. What is your experience? What is your experience with divorce? Personally, have you been divorced, married and divorced? Right? Are you a child of a divorce, an adult child of divorce? Right? Do you have friends, family members that are currently going through divorce, struggling through that process, right? So much pain, so much trauma potentially, right? Difficult making those types of decisions. It can be incredibly hard, life-changing. And I would invite us to consider, what does that mean for us? So what's your experience? What is your experience with divorce? Hello, Ginger Crow. Good afternoon. Thanks for jumping on. Hello, Alicia. Thanks for jumping. So, and second question, then we're going to jump right into some of this powerful information and content. Again, I would invite you all to be curious about how we move through this subject of divorce. What is your emotion? What are your emotions related to divorce? When you hear the word divorce, what comes to mind? What comes to mind? What are some of the words? What are some of the emotions? Okay. So I would invite us to consider all these questions and the answers as we move through this. So let's move through. All right, here we go. I want to first give us a little bit of a 30,000 foot view, some statistics, right? Not specific statistics, because we could sit here and spout statistics all day long. We can argue statistics and we can always find an argument that supports what we believe. But I do want to provide a little bit of foundation, a little bit of overview on divorce. Now, it's fairly common information to know that the divorce rate-ish vacillates between 40 and 50%, some more, some less. The point is, I think that divorce is a high rate when you consider what that means and really how much charged conversation and potentially shame is surrounding divorce based on cultural narratives, religious narratives, et cetera, et cetera. But more or less, it's around 40 to 50%. And as we move through this content today, friends, I would invite us to consider, and certainly from my perspective in how I work with amazing men and women, many of you who are on the call right now, I would offer the perspective that in truth, in reality, the divorce rate could be much higher, right? I have a question for you. Can you, and you may be taking notes right now, writing this down, right? How many marriages, okay, in the traditional sense, marriage bond, right? How many marriages do you know that are exemplary, otherworldly, something with which you see as a goal? Maybe you're in one right now, and congratulations, truly. Right? And how many marriages do you know that are absolutely passionate, peace-filled, adventurous, fun, playful, energetic, communicative, forward-thinking? We won't necessarily get into what makes an ideal relationship for you, the perfect 10 as we teach and coach at Daring Deeply. Not necessarily today, but I would invite you to consider whatever relationship that you are in today. Maybe you are divorced. Maybe you are in a marriage, right? How can we always strive to grow, transform, and move in a direction that is even more powerful, growing together in a relationship? So statistics, 40 to 50%. What I will say is both marriage and divorce rates have dropped fairly significantly in the last 20 years since the last census reports, right? And that would make sense, right? Numbers drop together. Fewer people are getting married. People are getting married later in life, right? Perhaps they've learned from prior generations that, do I really want to jump into this, right? More freedom, more opportunity for women to initiate divorce. Those rates have skyrocketed. Women now initiate divorce far more than men do. What does that say? Interesting, right? Women now have more freedom, more autonomy, more initiative, right? They have some financial freedom to be able to make those choices, although many do not and feel trapped. It's a whole nother issue, right? All right, so some perspective here. Denise says, freedom and peace. I've never felt fully alive until after my divorce. Yeah, that is a story that I hear often, and still a story that is understated still from my perspective. So thank you, Denise, for offering that perspective. So my perspective, this is my perspective. Obviously, this is what I am bringing forth to all of us here today. What I will say is that our cultural narrative, certainly here in Western society, is that marriage is looked upon as a win, as a success. That if you get married and you remain in a marriage, that you are deemed worthy of more, that you're successful, that you have more going on, that you have, quote, your shit together, right? And that those of us that are divorced, those of us that are perhaps still single, right, maybe perhaps have never been married, that there is this narrative that says, oh, almost this pity, right? Have some of us felt this, right? Even the circles in which we live dramatically shift when divorce happens, right? You had your married friends, and now those friends really don't relate anymore. Interesting. So there's a lot of shame that's associated with that. And I would invite us to consider the question, why? Why is that? My story, again, I shared a little bit at the top of this live, is that I have been married and divorced twice. I remained in the first marriage for a long time, when in truth, I knew that it was misaligned dramatically. And I must say here publicly, I have the greatest respect for my children's mother. Shout out to you, Sabrina. She is a tremendous mother and has provided an enormous amount of leadership and guidance, parenting for our three children through the years. And I knew that our relationship really was misaligned for a long time, long before divorce happened. Painful, difficult, right? I was tethered to the idea that I have got to make this work, tethered to the idea of people pleasing. What will people think? I was deeply involved, even vocationally, in the church world, in faith-based occupation. And so I had this extra layer of shame. Right? I'm a failure. You mean I served people in a faith-based community, and now I'm walking away from a marriage, walking away from my children, abandoning them, right? I had to deal with all of these narratives that, by the way, were false, but it took me years, years to understand that and to come to peace with it. This is why I have named this particular Facebook Live as Divorce Saved My Life. But I didn't realize that for years and years and years and years. There may be those of you on this live right now who are considering or who have been through divorce, and you're wondering, what is it on the other side? It's a powerful question. Also, too, I think marriage in our society deems worthiness. Right? In fact, coupledom, coupled, together, tethered, marriage, partnership is deemed as a success in our societal makeup. I would invite us to consider something different. That maybe the reason why divorce rates are so incredibly high is that because we put this idea of being together so much higher than working on the self first. I know that's certainly my story, right? We almost fall in love with the idea of marriage. We fall in love with the idea of the wedding. Perhaps if we spent more money on the marriage than the wedding, our statistics would be different. Right? I think we, unfortunately, buy into the love songs and the rom-coms, and God bless you, Paul McCartney. Okay. But not all love is what you need, right? Love is not what all you need. I can't speak, but you get the point, right? There is so much more to the connectivity of making a relationship work, right? And I think, and I believe that the legal and the faith-based narrative of what marriage presents is that you will do this no matter what, that you will stick it out no matter what. And although I believe in the institution of marriage, and I believe in the institution of commitment, that we should fight for what's right, we should fight and remain, it's important to know that there are options. Not to be abused, not to be mistreated. This is the challenge. We have some more people jumping in here. Stacy says, listening, I was always worried how I was going to introduce myself in a group settling divorce rate status. Yeah, I get that. Donna says, I was tethered too. People turned their back on me when I left the marriage. While that in my file. Write that in my file. Yeah, exactly. Denise says, the role shame played in my divorce decision was that I stayed too long. I was raised in an environment where you are, and I can't see the entire, but I will certainly respond to that. Thank you, Denise. Yeah, this is challenging, right? There's a lot of shame, a lot of societal narrative, a lot of religious narrative that tethers us to this idea of marriage no matter what. I would introduce the fact that there is no such thing as unconditional love, in the sense of no matter what, that I will be treated a certain way, and yet I am unable, right, to release myself from that particular relationship. I believe this has caused so much strife, so much pain, so much trauma, right, with the individual. I got to make it work. I got to figure it out. It's just fine. It's good enough, right? I don't want to hurt my children. Yeah. And people remain far too long in unhealthy, toxic marriages because of one of two things: money and kids, right? Which, by the way, both of those can easily go away very quickly, right? Kids grow up and move on and start their own lives, right? And although statistics, and we will see, yes, having two parents who are fully engaged in their children is a much healthier environment. Absolutely true. And it can be done in co-parenting post-marriage. It can. So when divorce does happen, right? When we come to that decision, which is not an easy one at all, as we've established, right? We are, as so many folks have indicated here, is that we feel shame, right? Is it so much shame is associated with that? You failed. You're weak. You didn't try hard enough. Look at what you're doing to the children. What are you going to do now? And so we listen to the voices from the outside, and we listen to the shame voices from the inside, right? The shame gremlins that sit on our shoulder and whisper into our ears, as Brene Brown would say, right? So let's turn that page. What about resiliency? What about recovery? What about owning the fact? What about understanding and maybe transforming the language associated with divorce? I read a book last year, over a year ago. Many of you have read this book. And if you haven't, I would invite everyone, men and women, to read Untamed by Glennon Doyle. And in that book, she had a powerful statement. Shout out to you, Glennon, where she redefined the end of her marriage by saying, my marriage is complete. I'm going to say that again. My marriage is complete. What she came to realize is that the marriage, the relationship she had with her former husband was beautiful and had its purpose and had its reasons. And she learned so much and he learned so much. And they had children and raised children together. And then it needed to come to a completion. You know, it's interesting that we put this higher receptivity to the idea of marriage. And I get it. It comes from long histories of religion and faith and society and all of those things. And yet when we break up in a quote pre-marriage relationship, right? It ends and it moves on and it completes. And we say, seek the lesson, not the loss. What did we learn in the bounds of that relationship that we can take to the next one, so that we can learn and not take our same shit into the next relationship, right? And so I would invite us to consider this. Perhaps this language, this translation can help. Your marriage was completed. You did not fail. You only learned. Let me provide that encouragement for you, friends. I knew it was super, super incredibly transformative for me, is to understand that my marriages, both of them, needed to come to an end, to a completion, that I did not fail. I only learned. And it has set me on a trajectory. It has set me onto a course to really align with other amazing folks. And now, I'm so joyful I am in a relationship with the amazing, the incomparable Paige Stewart. And I would not have been in a space, in a place to receive someone like her without all of the stories, right? With all of the pain and the understanding, the lessons of which I've learned in the past. If I would have stopped and said, I'm a failure, I could never have another relationship that is healthy. I would have stunted who I am, right? Who I can become. And I would invite you to consider the same. Divorce is not the end. Perhaps it's just the beginning. How does that feel? Yeah. So let's wrap this up with some key concepts and some takeaways, friends, because I promised you some tools and some ideas and strategies. Okay. Let me preface this with this first. Divorce sucks. Okay. This is no mystery. Divorce sucks. I highly recommend not getting divorced. And it is an absolute option to complete a relationship and move forward to more peace, passion, joy, and freedom for you. Okay. Also, too, friends, you may have friends, okay, that are struggling in their marriage. You may have people in your family, friendships, colleagues that are really, really, really struggling within the bounds of their marriage. And you may not been told about this, but I would invite you to be curious and to be sensitive. Because I will tell you, I could probably count less on one hand of how many marriages I look upon as exemplary, as something in which I strive to. There is a lot of pain in the bounds of marriage that no one wants to talk about. We can drive through neighborhoods and see the pretty picture, but we do not know what's underneath. We do not know what is being hidden. So I would invite us to be sensitive and to be curious and to be inviting and to validate our friends who may be struggling, provide them a place and a space in which they can open up to you. Okay. Again, divorce is never the intention, and it's an option. A few more thoughts here. Know that your relationship status does not define you. I'm going to say that again. Your relationship status never defines you. It can only enhance who you are. Okay. So whether you are married, divorced, single, widowed, whatever the case may be, okay, it does not define you as an individual. Only you define you as an individual. So I would invite you to know that no matter what happens, no matter what your future holds, no matter who you're around that may be affected by divorce, okay, this message may be for you, or this message may be for someone else in which you share. Okay. You are only defined by you, the work that you put in to you. So often we fight this idea of enmeshment, codependency within the bounds of a relationship. I would invite us to break free of that. This is precisely what we do when we provide life-altering, empowering support to high-achieving professional men and women with our coaching. If you're interested in knowing more about that, send me a message. More than happy to have a conversation. For this conversation today, as we complete this conversation, again, none of these ever end. We just hit pause until the next time. I hope, friends, that this has been helpful. I hope that it's been valuable. If you have questions, if you have more feedback, I love seeing all the comments here. Thank you so much for jumping on. We will be back here next Tuesday for another episode of DLea DLayered. I do want to also promote, we have a new Daring Deeply YouTube channel. You can find it, look up Daring Deeply on YouTube. There is exclusive videos. There are exclusive videos that are only produced and uploaded to YouTube. So if you love, enjoy, appreciate sharing these DLea DLayered lives on Facebook, and you'd like to go and find even more, you can do that. So I invite you to subscribe, hit that little bell so you know when the new videos are uploaded, so you can stay up to date on life, leadership, relationships, all of life's complexities. You could certainly find some exclusive videos there, and all of these DLea DLayers are uploaded to that as well. Thank you so much, friends, for jumping on. I so appreciate each and every one of you, loyal followers. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your Thursday and a fantastic weekend. And go Royals. Take care. Bye-bye.